Hello, my name is Jonathan Platt. I represent the J.M. Martinac Shipbuilding Corporation, an 83-year-old family-owned shipyard in Tacoma, Washington. On January 22nd, Steve Reinmuth, the Department of Transportation Director of Government Relations, went before the House Transportation Committee to give a presentation about the procurement of the 4 new auto passenger ferries, the ferries you authorized in 2001 that have not been started yet. Mr. Reinmuth started by saying that there will be no risk to the taxpayer except in certain situations, which he would not elaborate on. He further stated that the DOT will minimize the state's exposure to unforeseen cost overruns, that they will minimize cost overruns to the taxpayers. In other words, the DOT is planning on cost overruns. He stated that we are just going to do what the legislature asked. Let's see if that's true. The legislature asked the DOT not to create risk for the taxpayers. The DOT changed the request for proposals, and now it says the DOT will take full responsibility for the performance of the ferries. The last time the DOT said that on ferry construction, it cost the taxpayers an extra $70 million. The legislature asked the DOT to make sure that the new ferries would go into all the terminals. The DOT responded with, the new vessels are not required to navigate Keystone Harbor in its existing configuration. Because the new ferries cannot get into Keystone, the taxpayers will be forced to spend up to $1 billion extra to move the terminal and build special ferries when they don't have to. On that subject, and according to the Audubon Society, Keystone Terminal sits in between Crockett Lake, an important bird area which serves as a staging area and habitat for 17 species of shorebirds, bald eagles, and 9 species of ducks, and Keystone Conservation Area, a prime underwater site with an enormous diversity of fish, invertebrates, and plants. Does anyone really think we are going to move Keystone Terminal? Question. The Washington State Ferries financing study states ferry and ferry terminal construction will be underfunded by close to $500 million in the next 25 years. Where is the extra money to change Keystone and build special ferries going to come from? Finally, Mr. Reinmuth was asked about the change in the size of the new ferries from 130 to 144 cars. His response was that the 130-car design was merely a discussion between the ferry system and others. While they were discussing the 130, however, they spent 3 years and $5,890,651.88 on the 130-car design and $44.6 million on equipment for that design. And remember, whether it's the DOT's design for a 130 or a 144-car ferry, neither will go into Keystone. Yes, the DOT has hit bottom and started to dig. Now what do? We go back to what the legislature asked. Build ferries that create no risk for the taxpayer and make the shipyard responsible for the design, construction, and performance of the new ferries. Build ferries that go into all the terminals, that can serve all the ferry communities interchangeably. That seems breathtakingly obvious. Build ferries that are the safest in the world, that offer comfort, efficiency, and reliability to the rider and a firm fixed cost to the taxpayer with no cost increases. J.M. Martinac can build these ferries and start now, creating hundreds of family wage jobs for union craftsmen and women. A final note on the 130 versus 144 car debate. Even though the DOT has spent over $50 million on the 130 car design, and even though the Washington State Ferries financing study states that the ridership is less than anticipated, suggesting smaller, not larger ferries, if the decision to build the 144-car ferries is all that stands in the way of starting the construction of new ferries that were authorized 6 years ago, then J.M. Martinac can and will build a 144-car ferry that meets the law. It will go into all the terminals as they exist today, including Keystone. It will be the safest, most efficient, and reliable ferry for the rider, and J.M. Martinac will take full responsibility for the design, construction, and performance of the ferry with a firm fixed price with no cost overruns for the taxpayers to pay. Let's build boats. Thank you.